and it's all yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you for uh, coming to our session. And I am going to make this presentation. And I have put a link in that schedule to the slides. And there's a couple other links there that I will share in the chat as well. Um, yes, so this is what we'd like to talk about today. Just introduce ourselves a little bit more. And then I want to talk about lifelong information literacy and why I think that's important. We're going to talk about dispositions and then we're going to ask you to fill out a survey about dispositions that are important to your practice. And this may take a little while, and it's okay to you don't have to get 100%. We just want take the top level things that kind of stand out to you. And if you were in Elizabeth's session earlier, you know that the language is complicated, etc. I'll talk about that more in a second. And then we're going to talk about conversation on other dispositions, and then we'll talk about next steps. So, so I think a lot of you know me. I teach at in the LIS department. I have had an interest in information literacy. My original information literacy questions during my dissertation were around scientific information literacy, which is why I was very interested in Hugh Womack's presentation earlier about scientific disinformation that's delivered in memes. Very, very interesting. But I was a academic librarian, and then I was a community college librarian. So I've really been interested in how community colleges bridge a number of different gaps and focusing on information literacy in that area. And I really think that we need to start talking K, pre-K through 20 and beyond into lifelong information literacy to make information literacy meaningful. So that's why I'm here. And Elizabeth, do you want to say anything?
Sure. Many of you probably heard me talk this morning, so I'm not going to belabor where my background comes from, except just to reiterate that I really do come from the education perspective. My background is all in the K-12 schools. I consider myself an education professional, a school librarian, curriculum instruction background, continuing even now as in an LMS program and a library educator. I really still continue to focus on that curriculum component and really shoring up that our soon to be school library educators, or even just our library educators, really look at the curriculum and the instruction focus. And oftentimes in the school library, that information literacy is embedded within all the other instructional components that we look at. So while I do research on information literacy, a lot of times it's not just information literacy, it's information instruction, with which has information literacy embedded within it. So that's really my perspective. I'm certainly very interested in that whole spectrum of how we make sure that our users, all users, whether they're in the K-12 classrooms or in the academic setting, are very proficient users of ideas and information. But I think we have to really talk about that whole continuum and how we're educating them, and really doing a good job of ensuring that we have a bridge so that we don't have students coming to us at the academic setting pretending like they were never taught any good information seeking skills. along the way.
Yes. Yeah. Um, so, so for me, information literacy isn't information literacy unless you hold it across your lifetime. And our, but there are issues with making it lifelong learning, uh, lifelong information literacy, because we know that information is contextual. Um, we put boxes around information. There's that information we get from Facebook, and there's that information that we get from a textbook, and there's that information that we, learn about in school. That's a block, and we don't, because it's contextual. We know about these databases. We might have been taught them when we first went to college. I wasn't, because there weren't databases, but I won't. I digress. Um, and but I was taught how to use the card catalog, man, and the card catalog looked different in my little public library. It looked different in my high school library. It looked different in my college library. It was much more complex. There were, uh, all kinds of different pieces to it, and so even that, what we would think is a very simple thing, find a book, is contextual. It depends on the library and all that kind of stuff. And we aren't necessarily good at taking the skills that we learn in one context and using them in another. So I sometimes talk about it as information literacy doesn't seem to be like math literacy. Once you learn how to add 2 plus 2, you can always add 2 plus 2. Context seems to matter a tremendous, much more for information literacy than it does for something like mathematics. But I'm not talking about higher level mathematics. Addition is one thing, very simple, but by the time you get into things like calculus, context does matter, because how are you going to apply those formulas that you learn into this new context that you're confronted with? Um, so so as a beginning thing, I'd love you to reply in the chat. What are some of the disconnects you have seen in information literacy in your own practice? Things where you thought, just like Elizabeth was talking about earlier, oh, didn't those, middle school librarians teach you about X? What disconnects do you see? Searching Google in a database is not the same. Yes. Different media sources. Yes, all .orgs are bad. That's a little trick we teach sometimes, and oops, maybe not. Teachers not understanding the difference between a database and online. Yes. K-5 students were without a librarian for a few years, so I'm starting from scratch. Yep. A print book is better than an ebook, right? Because an ebook you find online, right? And online is bad. Staff is not information literate. So, yeah, are you saying the teachers there Kim? And I think those of us who work in academia can sometimes talk that way about the uh, everything found in library databases is reliable, right? Because that's another little trick we teach them. And here's the library stuff, and there's Google, and our stuff is reliable, their stuff's not. Um, the young ones have not learned, and the older ones are afraid to learn.
And
So
you're
again,
talking about your staff there, Kim.
Hey, there we go. This is Kim. I'm in a K-5 elementary library in Alamance County, and I find that a lot of my young teachers, fresh out of college, just Google everything. They have not learned to use databases. They've not learned to vet their sources. And some of the older librarians only want hardback books for research. Anything online is bad, and that's what I'm working with.
yep, yep. Um, okay, thanks, everybody. So in the ACRL documents and in embedded in parts of the ASIL standards are these things that they call dispositions. Or sometimes they don't call them dispositions, attitudes, affective pieces. So what are these dispositions? The ACRL has a short definition. Generally, a disposition is a tendency to act or think in a particular way. More specifically, a disposition is a cluster of preferences, attitudes, and intentions, as well as a set of capabilities that allow the preferences to become realized in a particular way. And the ACRL document references a conference paper delivered at AERA, which is the American Association of Research, American Educational Research Association, and in 1994. It doesn't talk about the fact that this has been in the education literature for 20 years before that, and that it really is a kind of a long-standing research agenda for people who are interested in critical thinking. So librarians talk about how we're crucial to critical thinking, but we haven't necessarily read the critical thinking literature, and especially around this topic of dispositions. So we have embedded in our documents a lot of things that talk about dispositions. But what I don't see in the library literature is people talking about teaching to those dispositions. So my big overarching question is, are the dispositions where we should be focusing our attention rather than in things that ACRL calls knowledge practices and ASIL refers to as skills. So knowledge practices and skills, we tend to focus on those. But what we might be needing to focus more attention on and talking about misinformation and disinformation is one part of that, because we're influencing those attitudes towards information and information seeking. So yeah. Yes. we assume a lot about the ability of young people to use the online tools, and that they also, because they can use the tools, then they should be able to discern the quality of information, and that may not be the case. And as Elizabeth talked about earlier today, and I hope you'll take a look at that document that she shared with you, and attempt to fill out some of those questions, because I think we need agreement in language and focus across the educational spectrum. And if we can do that, then I think we'll be a lot closer to a strong agenda for instruction in information literacy. So we want to know what you focus on in your practice. And I'm going to...
Can I jump in for just 1 second?
Sure, absolutely.
Just to think about one component of skills versus dispositions as you set this up, Nora.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we do see a focus on those skills. And, we've had Nora mentioned that 1994 kind of comeuppance of dispositions in our, in our thinking in the library world, and it wasn't new. But one other shift that kind of happened too was all of our focus on assessment and standardization. And if you really think about it, skills are easy to assess. And so, when we were thinking about, okay, well, what are we going to do with all of these standards and all of this assessment kind of work, we gravitated towards what can we really hold on to. And it's the skills and the knowledge and the practices that we can actually put our peg into and say, okay, this is where we can measure something. And dispositions, those attitudes and beliefs, boy, those are a lot more, out there in the air kind of things, and they're a little bit harder to assess. So while we put them in our standards, and they were also in the earlier iteration of the AASL standards, those 2007 standards, they actually called them dispositions by name out there. We didn't have always a hard and fast way to assess them. So we've been soft shoeing around these dispositions a little bit more. And maybe it's time to say enough with what we can always assess, but we still need to nurture and grow these things within our students. And we can't just say, if I can't put an ABC answer on it, that doesn't mean it's not important anymore.
Yes, and Alicia makes a very good point in the chat about we get one class period per semester. so yeah, there's not a lot of time for growing and
right. Showing that measured growth over time.
Yes.
Obviously, doing those dispositions, we want to see that nurtured growth, and guess what? It doesn't happen usually in one class. So I didn't mean to hijack you getting.
Oh no, but that's it exactly. So I'm putting a link to this document in the chat. Hopefully I have set this up correctly and it's wide open to you. But I just want to go back to my slides for just a second, because so I want you to take a couple. I'm going to give you, let's see, let's say 5 minutes just to look at it and do what you can in 5 minutes. And what's happening here is the first set of language is from ACRL. So the first block says seek out conversations taking place in their research area. Or after the or is what AZEL is the match that Elizabeth and her team made to the AZEL standards, seeking interaction with a range of learners, actively contributing to group discussions. So in the first set of questions, I've asked you, how important is this in thinking about information literacy? Okay, let me go back and change that. So why isn't that open to everybody? So I'm sorry, somebody can somebody help me out here?
Hey, Nora, sorry.
Yeah.
I had to step away for a second. If you go to your settings gear, there to the left of the center,
Yeah.
and then click on that.
Yeah.
And uncheck that box.
Oh, uncheck that box.
I'm sorry about that. Yep.
No, thank you. No, that's I'm sorry that I'm such a
No.
No, this is something I should know. Thank you. Thank you. So 5 to 8 minutes. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Nora.
Yeah.
Can you give us the directions again, please?
Sure. I'll put them back up on the screen here. So how important is it, this set of words, how important is it to information literacy? And then it seems to repeat, but it's a second block that says, how do I use this in my practice? Yes, no, not sure.
I did also make the whole presentation accessible.
Oh, you did? Okay, great. Thank you.
I finally found everything. I've been doing so much work in Google. I'm so sorry, Nora.
Oh, no.
I was not any help to you.
That's I don't use Google as much anymore because we moved to Box for all kinds of the major documents, and so that Box has another whole set of complicated rules for sharing. I haven't gotten used to either, so sometimes I just find myself in a muddle about what technology am I using now. But,
So Lori, it's just a matter of which ones you may engage with. Some people will be engaging with the ACRL and some people may be engaging with the AASL. So they're equivalent.
yes.
Nora might have answered your question 5 minutes ago, but I'm just catching up there. This is the after lunch session, so it's a little more. You have to be entertained as well. Making sure you're staying awake.
We'll give you another minute or so. There's a lot of words there. Okay. You can continue to work on that if you want to. So now I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth. And I should have prefaced what I said earlier. Those words, all those dispositions, actually come from just the two parts of the ACRL framework. And these were the two that Elizabeth mentioned earlier, matched the best with the ASIL standards, okay? So the first set, like the first 8 or 9, their research as inquiry come from the framework, ACRL frame, research as inquiry. The second, there's not really a second group, but as you're working down, there's 8 more standards, and those come from scholarship as conversation. So it was research as inquiry and the scholarship as conversation were the two places where ACRL and ASIL matched the strongest on the disposition. So that's where that survey comes from. So thank you very much for that. Those are a lot of words. And yes, and that's only two. That's only two of the frames.
So those really were the two that aligned most closely. Next, what we'd really like to do is look at all of the dispositions. And so this next document is really a list of each and every one of the dispositions from the ACRL frames. So if you were to pull those out, you would see all of these at the next link. What we'd like to do, and I don't see the control on my end, which means Nora, you must have the full hosting capability, is really break you into some smaller groups where you have the opportunity to use your mic so that we're not talking in a large group, but rather having the opportunity for a little bit more conversation and engagement. And you're welcome to use your chats. It would be nice to use the chat and capture some of your conversation, but it's also fine if you unmute yourselves and have a real-time conversation with your mics. And we're going to ask that you kind of come to a little bit more of a group consensus. So in this next one, your response is not which one do you necessarily do, but which ones are maybe your top 5 that you see represented within all. So we will ask that you report out as your group your top 5 consensus amongst the dispositions. Which ones should we be focusing on? Not necessarily that we are, but should we be paying closer attention to? If somebody came around and said, you know what, you don't get to do them all, but we're gonna choose 5 that we're gonna maybe do. Maybe I think it was Kim perhaps that said, I only have an hour. So if you only have a fixed finite amount of time, which 5 would you prioritize at this point? And hopefully your group might settle on a consensus of some sort. Nora, do you see breakout?
No, Rachel, can we do a breakout?
I don't know if Rachel is still with us.
I'm sorry, everyone. I keep having to walk away. Do you need any help?
Yes. Can you do a breakout? Can you break people out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you just like
just a random breakout?
Just a random breakout. It looks like there's 13 participants, and I would assume that Nora and I are part of that. So that would leave 11. So perhaps four people in a group.
Okay, so that's 3 rooms. It says assign 12 participants into 3 rooms. Does that sound good?
Thanks.
Here we go. Sorry for the delay.
Thanks.
Are the dispositions, that document, available for us to look at online?
It is a Google Doc.
Is it in the slides?
I can give you a link. Let me put a link in the chat.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
So everyone, you should be getting an invitation to join a breakout room. So just go ahead and accept that once you see it. Elizabeth and Natalie, it looks like breakout room 2. Kim and Lisa, breakout room 1. And I'll jump in room 2. Elizabeth, do you want to try to go to room 2?
Sure.
Okay. Let me. Oh, it's waiting for you to join room 2, it says.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'm going. I'm in room 2. Do you see me?
No, it says not joined. And for Kim, it says not joined as well. I can try moving you both into room 3, maybe. We can just have a larger room 3. All right. Yeah, it still says not joined.
Hmm. So I actually see myself in the main room.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't say that I'm being sent anywhere.
Yeah, I've done it a couple times now. Let me try one more time. Yeah, I just moved you to breakout room 3, so there should be some kind of pop-up or invitation. I'm not entirely sure what's happening. It works for pretty much everybody else though, so I guess that's good.
Yeah, if I don't get in, that's not the worst thing that could happen. I'm happy that everybody else is there. But I don't see why I'm not going.
I don't know.
I'm looking to see if like a hidden pop-up is somewhere and I don't see one.
Let's see.
Do you think it's because, well, Nora's there. I was gonna say, do you think it's because I'm like an alternate host or?
But yeah, Nora's able to get in, so I don't think that's the problem.
Oh wait, I'm going, I think. Goodbye, Rachel.
Shut up! Josh, please handle it. I'm in a meeting. Hi, Elizabeth. Do you want me to end the breakout rooms?
Yes, please.
All right. It says they will close in 60 seconds.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Type in
I'm
some-
sorry about that. I clearly told the people in my household not to bother me, but they did it anyway. Hey, Nora. Elizabeth
Hi.
asked me to bring everybody back.
Yeah,
Thanks, Nora. I was just taking charge.
that's okay. I'm glad you did.
I just wanted to give them some directions in here just before they all left. And maybe Nora, if you can display the slide that
Oh, yeah.
directions for participation, later participation. Hi everyone, thanks for coming back. If you did not have an opportunity to capture your discussion on that Google form, if you could please try and do that now, or as you're just finishing up your last couple of minutes with us, so that we have a record of those great conversations that were going on and what your group was discussing and coming to some consensus on. That way we have that recording on the Google Doc.
Sorry.
Hey guys, who are we? Alicia, do you know who's doing the Google Doc?
Did we have a Google Doc,
It was a
Elizabeth?
you had shared it.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Is it in the?
It
Is it in the chat?
it is. It looks like this, and I will put the link. Correct? Am I making that up, Nora? You did share that link?
I don't think I did, Elizabeth. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, this one. Yes. Yeah.
Don't call me crazy today, Nora.
No. I am the one that's crazy. No, but in terms of capturing your top 5, we didn't have a separate Google Doc for that.
Ah, okay.
Right.
Do we have time to make a few notes here, Elizabeth, about their top 5?
We don't.
Yeah, we're breaking up.
I will be willing to stay, but I think Rachel's going to kick us out.
Okay.
I mean, this is the end of the day, so I
Yeah.
have no problem if you guys want to keep going. That's fine. I'll keep the recording going, and I think if people want to stay, can stay, you're certainly welcome to.
So you're welcome to type in your top 5, your a summary, any thoughts, any final questions, any last thoughts or comments.
I wish we had. Oh, go ahead, Nora. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. No, why don't you go ahead, whoever was talking there?
I was just saying, this is Lori. I was just saying, I wish we had more time to talk
Yeah.
because right when we got into, because Alicia was in my group in Tuesday,
Mhm.
right when, and Maria Luisa, right when we got really, into talking about the topics, you have, move on. You got to get
Yeah. So
This is a big topic.
This is a big topic. So guess what? You might have an opportunity to talk more because I am doing some research on this.
Yay, Nora.
And I have a little money from the powers that be at UNCG. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me just do this one more time here.
Wichita Community College.
Why does it look like that's only part of it? There it is. Okay. Oh, Lord, I'm losing my mind. There we go. This is a form. I'm just collecting your email at this point. If you're interested in maybe following up with me on this research that we're doing, we're going to have a follow-up something and conversation a little bit. It'll probably be 2 or 3 hours just focused on this topic. It'll probably be online like this because that's the way we're doing everything these days, and just because you're also physically dispersed as well. So we would and we will get back to you about how and when and why and things like that. But
thank you guys for doing this research. It's really important.
It's yeah, it feels really important. Just we
I think it's time we all talk together.
Yes.
That's been lacking in our profession, it seems, for a long time.
Yeah. And it's as I wrote in the proposal for the research, we're we are educated in separately. We sort of have the core curriculum that we go through, but there's a lot of separations there as well. And we don't, because we're educated separately, we don't necessarily work across different domains either. And so I think that's leads to that blame game that Elizabeth was talking about earlier of they don't do that. I mean, and so I think more conversation across that divide is real. And we go to the
are the same.
Yeah, we go to different conferences.
They go to school K through 20.
Yeah.
And they also to go to the public library. I mean, it is the same person.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's the same person in different contexts.
Okay. And we as a profession don't always talk to each other. We sometimes keep in our silos.
Yes. Yeah. Because we think that we're not doing the same thing, but whenever I look at it, I think we are doing the same things.
Mm-hmm.
We're primarily educational institutions, and education writ large, and so I think it's time we break down those silos, and this is a good time for that. So thank you for staying a little bit later. I'd like to thank Elizabeth again for all of her help helping me think about this presentation, and if you get a chance to finish the survey, great. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please fill out that form, and we appreciate your attendance today. It's great to see all my alums out there.
Great to see you, Nora.
Good.